Next topic is administer Azure Virtual Machine. Within this, we're going to learn about how we can configure or create virtual machines and its availability. So how we can make it highly available, how we can increase standard SLA to higher number. And we will do a lab or demonstration. Okay. To configure virtual machine, we need to understand that what other responsibility falls onto us. We then need to plan what we're going to do about the virtual machine, how we're going to set up, what is its name, what size it's going to be, what plan we're going to select, and so on. We also need to determine what is the virtual machine size in terms of the scaling up as well, and what kind of tier we need to select. As a part of the setting it up, we need to select what is the storage we're going to mount, what type of storage, whether it's going to be a standard, premium, or ultra disk we're going to connect. And while creating a VM in the portal, what are the other ways to do it? So you can use ARM template. You can also use bicep scripts. And you can also automate using a PowerShell. You then, once it's set up, you need to establish a connectivity. By default, it won't have the 3389 port, which is RDP port enabled. So that means we need to set this up either by using firewall or by using NSG. And we can open up inbound ports. So we need to consider that. And when we connect to a virtual machine with a different operating system, what the behavior is going to be. Because if it is Windows, it's pretty simple, isn't it? We can use RDP, we can use biceps, and also we can use SSH. But when we're connecting with a Linux virtual machine, it's SSH is the best approach. And let's look at the summaries and other stuff. When it comes to responsibility, the responsibility literally grows based on the type of model we are following. So let's assume that we are going into SaaS platform, then its responsibility is quite less. But if you are on-prem, you have 100% responsibility belongs to you, correct? But when you go with the PaaS and IaaS, in that situation, your responsibility is grown compared to the SaaS platform, but it's kind of reduced compared to infrastructure as a service. So you can literally see what responsibility falls on you. And I'm pretty sure you must have learned this in previous sessions of AZ 900 if you have done that course. So here it literally identifies, say, information and the data is always our responsibility. Regardless of whatever the platform you go, it's our responsibility. Devices management, it's our responsibility. Whether our users accessing a mobile device, tablets, or laptops, and how we manage those devices is up to us. Microsoft or the cloud service provider won't support you in that. Setting up the accounts and identities, whether creating a username password, groups, roles, responsibilities, implementing multi-factor or two-factor authentication, that becomes our responsibility. So those configuration detail, probably the infrastructure is not our responsibility, but setting up the accounts is our responsibility. Where cloud service provider can't support you saying, okay, can I have those 100 users created? No, that's something you need to do it. Okay. Identity and the directory infrastructure, which is Azure Active Directory or similar kind of services, that is partly fall onto our responsibility in PaaS and SaaS, but in infrastructure as a service is our responsibility, on-prem is fully our responsibility. So this is how it works. Similar applies to application, network controls, and when it comes to the operating system, to physical host and other stuff. For PaaS, it's just not our responsibility, it's cloud provider's responsibility. So when we're planning a virtual machine, we start with the network, how the network establishment is going to be. We think about name of the virtual machine, important. We need to think about the location where the virtual machine needs to be there. Typically, we think about data residency and see where the virtual machine is best to be in. So if you are providing your services, to example, in Europe, you better off having your virtual machines within the European regions or the data centers. Keeping the virtual machine into a different region outside of the Europe could be breach of your data residency or data privacy policy. Because to do that transaction, you need to send the data outside of the zone, outside of that region, is not permittable. So that's what we need to think. What is the best location for my virtual machine is going to be, and where my users are. That's again another important thing. If my virtual machine sitting in US and my users sitting in Europe, then better off creating the virtual machine in Europe. So another example where the compliance doesn't really impact, but say global website, people can order your products from anywhere in the world. But if the services or the website is hosted nearby the user, they can typically access that service without any kind of delay, or your website performance will be very fast. So those kind of intentions or those kind of requirement needs to be well thought before we choose a location. Also consider the pricing, which is important. If you don't have the budget, make sure you limit those type of or the size of the virtual machine, and the location of the virtual machine also impacts on the cost as well. In terms of virtual machine sizing, there are various types are available. So typically in a normal day-to-day use, we can use general purpose, which is a balance between CPU and memory ratio. And it generally costs less compared to the other options we have given here on the screen. Compute optimized, which is high in CPU, but low in memory ratio, where memory optimized is higher in memory, but lower in CPU. Why would we do that? Because sometimes your application is not CPU intensive, but it's a memory intensive. So in those kind of situation, you can always choose memory optimized, or sometimes it's not memory high intense, or it's just literally is a processing, because you're probably processing a lot of calculation on the go. In that time, like CPU intensive video processing, probably that's another use case. So just to save the cost, just trying to give you that balance here. But you can also go to third one, which is a storage optimized, and that only considers a high disk throughput in a input and output IO ratio. Now, another option you have available, which is a GPU, graphic rendering options, is enabled if you are doing lots of video editing, you're doing gaming, online gaming, and other kind of applications, and you probably require the high intense GPU. So you have the certain virtual machine sizing is available to cater that situation as well. And then you also have another option, which is for the high performance compute, for like, very compute intense processing you need to do, probably making a lot of calculations, a lot of processing, lots of things to store in a temporary memory in terms of the data or your calculation or business logic. In that situation, you normally target high performance compute. But in this situation, be mindful as you go from here to down, the cost is increasing. So here is a lower cost, here is a higher cost. So be mindful of that. To spin up virtual machine, you have to have a disk, and there are minimum 2 disks you require. So that's each Azure VM that has a minimum requirement. Which are these? So the one is an operating system disk, and the other one is a temporary disk. And the temporary disk, it can lose the content. So it's just for the temporary, as the name suggests, it's a temporary processes purposes. You also have a data disk option there, which is optional because you could decide to keep your data into blob storage. And by that, you will be keeping your data and the backup element, which is again a blob storage, is a low latency we learned in the previous session. So you could be interested in utilizing this by you applying some security on top of it, and also you can make use of that backup policies and other retention policy settings as well. Okay, OS and data disk resides in Azure storage account. So the storage account we create for the normal purposes in the multiple time we have created. So it sits within this, and it's a Azure-based storage service, and there are 3 types: standard, premium, and ultra. So the standard typically have a server scale HDD hard drives or SSD. Then you have a premium SSD, which is more high performant. And then you have an ultra SSD, which is even extreme performance. And Azure VMs uses literally a managed disk option. So that's to be mindful of. Okay, we will do the demonstration of creation of the virtual machine and connect to virtual machine using Bastion, RDP, or SSH. So let's jump into demo in between.
Hi, so we got our demo environment ready. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through Azure Virtual Machine. We will create a number of machines. We then going to go through some of the scaling options. We also going to go through alerts and other insights options, zone resilience, and let's see how much time it allows. And we'll try and cover up as much as possible. Okay, so for this exercise, what we're going to do, we're going to go into start creating virtual machines. So let's go and search for virtual machines. And within the virtual machine, we then create a new one. Excuse me. Here you have 3 options: create Azure virtual machine, Azure virtual machine with present configuration, and more VMs and related solutions. So you can actually choose any of the options, but what we're going to do is we create Azure virtual machine. When we click on it, it will just ask you to fill in some of the basic information like subscription. If you don't have any resource group, we then need to create a new one. So I'm going to pass the name as E104. Okay. And I will give a virtual machine name. Okay. My region is East US, so I'm going to leave the East US as is, availability zone for the option. And here I will leave the availability zone to 1. But what you can do, you can create multiple zones as well. In the availability zone option, you have VMSS, virtual machine skill set, or availability set option as well. Okay, security type is all looking good. In terms of the image, what we're going to select, there are multiple images available. You can actually click on see all image and there will be plenty of images available. But for this exercise, we're going to select 2019, the latest version with X64 Gen 2. But in case if you need to install another VM, another image, you can click on see all image. It will then open up list of images. Let's wait for the load. And here you can search the type of image you want. Some images also comes with the development resources. Some image comes with some of the different resources like media streamer or anything like that. So you can actually choose the one appropriate for you. Yeah. So I'm going to go back to the screen and select 2019 data center Gen 2. And you have other options, which is a size. So currently, I have got the size selected, which is I'm happy with. But if you really need to look at the other sizes, it will give you approximately running cost as well. So have a look at it. And if you click on see all sizes, there are different type of versions available, whether D series, E series, A series. So you can select the one you is right for you. And after that, we're going to give a username. So let's give student as admin user and the password. Okay. So once you have entered the password, here you can select either RDP port to be open. But in this case, what we're going to do, we're going to select none. And then we're going to set up later on with the different option. If I go down here, if I want to have the bulk license, like in a bulk discount, if I have existing licensing, I can select this and onboard our own license, and you could save that much money on it. Let's go to disk. I'm going to select the premium SSD. We'll leave it there as is. Excuse me. And we also going to look at the ultra disk, which is off, so it's fine. I don't want any ultra disk. And I will leave the platform manage key here. The other option you could get is your own customer manage key or platform manage and customer manage key for added security. Within the networking, what we're going to do, we're going to create like in a VNet. So it's already set up as new. So we can have that. So we'll leave it as is. Okay, everything is looking good, but just in case, just for the practice purpose, let's do one thing. We can create a new, and you can see the option here, how that look like. So if you really creating a new one, you can give your own name or the name gets populated automatically. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say like in a different name. So say RG01 while we actually doing the custom one. So let's customize it. And here I can supply a different IP address and range. Let me go into, let's increase to 20. So we got that. And we also need to create a subnet. So let's give IP address 10.80 because that needs to be in the same range, but I will give the CIDR to 24 here. It's not liking it. So let me just delete this one. Address is looking good. Let me just recreate it. I think they're stuck somewhere. So let's go create new. Okay, we should not be creating here, but let's let's leave it to the normal. And in this subnet, we got this new subnet here. And we can also create a subnet and the IP range later on once VM has been spinned up. But let me just give one more try and see if that accepts it here. It does require subnet. Sorry, my bad. I was entering into that. So address range should be 10.80.0.0/24. I think that'll do. That'll work. Okay, so let's press OK. And it's automatically adopted like subnet 0, public IP address, and all the information what I need. It's all there. And in public IP also, if you want to just see it, like just for the view purpose, this is what we have. So public IP is a static, and we also got routing is a Microsoft network. So we're going to keep it to Microsoft network, and availability zone to zone 1, which we already selected. Okay. So all looking good. So no load balancer for now. And let's go to management. Okay. Under the management, we we got identity, we got Azure AD, auto shutdown. So if you like to save some money on the non-production environment, and you probably have your developers working 9 to say 6 p.m. and some developers might need to work a little bit late. In that case, you have your organization agrees that time is 8 p.m. From 8 p.m. you want to shut down. You can actually put down the auto shutdown option here, and you can specify your time zone and the time you want to auto shut down. So next morning, the developer will come in and they will start this VM if needed. Example, if it is a Friday night, then and the developer's coming on Monday, so you don't want that auto start to happen. So you probably want to keep it like that. So that will literally save a good chunk of money because there are a significant amount of the time which is not really needed. At that time, you can keep the machine shut down. Okay. So here we're going to keep all the setting as is. We're not going to change anything here. And everything's looking here. So OS update, everything is there. Monitoring. In monitoring also, we have recommended alert rules. We have diagnostics and other stuff, which we're going to keep it to the recommended option. Let's go to advanced. In advanced, excuse me, we can pass custom data. We can pass enable user data and other options. There are other granular options are available, so that we can set as per the need. For demo, we're going to keep it like that. And then we're going to hit the review and create. What it will do, it will perform the validation as normal. Once validation is passed, I can hit the create button, and that will continue and create that. Okay. While this is running, what else you can do is you can also click on template, and within the template, excuse me, here you can see all your template here that you can actually download, keep it for yourself, or keep it into the add to library, and it will store it on the Azure. The next thing is available, once I have this VM template is available, within the template, we also have the variables. So these are the variable we can pass. So here, if I change the name to something else, I can technically deploy it from here as well. Yeah. So variables, I got the parameters. So there are different parameters I can pass. So example, if I go with say subnet name or virtual network name, you can just go in there and those parameter you can modify from here. So you can go back to the parameter tab, and here you can modify the one you want to pass the information here. And once you have passed those information, what you can do, you can redeploy. So if I just for the demo purpose, if I just put down everything to start with, say X, I'm just adding X to it. Sorry, the modification is not happening. But ultimately, what you can do, you can just have this parameter files, and you can hit deploy. And when you hit deploy, it will perform the validation and it will deploy those entire stuff. So here, you can also go through the steps here. You can edit the template. You can edit parameter. Let's see if I can perform this task again here with this. So you can have a view of how you can create the other parameter. So the network name, you could potentially keep it the same and subnet same here. What I'm going to do is make sure the IP is changed. So I'm going to say 01 or 00, so we can identify this is the one we actually created separate. We also got the machine name, which needs to be different because you can't have the same machine name here. So I'm just going to, for the prefix purpose, I'm adding 0 in the end. RG going to remain same. We don't want to change RG. And here we need to supply a password because password doesn't get stored into the parameter. So remember, you always have to supply this. Okay, and everything looking good. I'm just going to quickly check again. So we got detailed, standard, static IP address name has changed. NSG, we can reuse the same one unless the validation fails it. Network interface card, we need to change the name. Okay, so we got that network interface card name change as well. Everything's looking good. And so we deployed the one VM manually. You saw that one. But here, I can actually go through the deployment using a template. And let's demonstrate this as well. So you can see in the review, it's all the information is there. When I hit create, it will initialize it. If there are any error or anything, it will just prompt us straight away. So we can go back, correct the template, and then redeploy. Okay. So let's wait for a minute or so. While this is doing it, what we can do, we can prepare for the next step we're going to do because we're not going to use this VM here. So in this one, what we like to do is, let me just open this in a new tab. Okay, the next step I want to go into storage account. And in the storage account, I'm going to, okay, so we haven't got the storage account here. Let me give it a try again. Let's see if there are any, there should be a storage account, but not, okay. Not a problem. We can always create a new one. So I've given a name. I'm going to keep the same region. I'll leave it to standard because I'm not looking into something, and keep it to LRS local. Okay, everything is looking good here. Nothing I need to change. Enable for all the network. Data protection will be okay. Encryption is Microsoft Manage. Blob file, I'll enable for the all service. Tags, review. Okay. Let's see what happened. So VM is ready. So now we can see within resource group. So if I go to RG01, I can see both VMs are now ready. So you can see that, like, 00, the one I amended, the VM is ready as well. And the previous one with the dot, like, only 0 is ready as well. So this is how, like, you can create a VM manually. You can create VM using a template. And let's try another way. So I got the storage account ready now. So within storage account, I'm going to go into storage browser. And within storage browser, I'll go into blob container, create a new container. And this container, I'll keep it to private. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to upload some script into this container and use that script to create virtual machine as well. Yeah. Okay. So let's give a name to container. Okay. And within this, I have prepared some script. So we're going to upload the script by clicking upload, browse. Okay. So I have like 4 scripts here. So I'm going to upload. Let's upload all of them actually. Let's go. So it's all the small size. Okay. So once I upload them, you will be able to see it within the container itself. Remember, this container we created is a private, so it's not everyone can just literally go in and just see it. So now we have this container, and what we're going to do, we're going to go and search for virtual machine again. Excuse me. Okay. And here we're going to select a virtual machine, which is VM0. So let's see, like, if we can install extensions. So because I uploaded the script here, I have some extension script, custom script extension and all this thing. So we're going to give it a try on that one. To execute a script on a VM, you don't really need to log into the VM and then install it. You can actually do it from the portal. So for that purpose, what you need to do is simply go into VM, go under the settings tab. Within the settings tab, you can go into the extension plus applications here. So within this extension plus application, you can literally add those extension file, custom script. And here it requires a script file. So what we're going to do, we're going to select one of the PS. Right, so this is my container script container here. And I'm going to select, let's install IIS on VM. So I've selected the install IIS PowerShell script. I will then select, and there are no arguments needs to be given. So some script you need to pass some parameter. In that case, you can pass the arguments here. I'm going to now do review and create. Looking good. Let's hit create. So what this script will do is simply install IIS on this one. So you can literally see what is happening on that one. So if I just open up, sorry, it's just hanging. So if I go to VM0, which should have a public IP because we did selected one. So I have this public IP. Okay. What I can do is copy this, then go. Now this script is still installing IIS, so I haven't got IIS, so it should not load any pages at all, not even the IIS landing page. So what it's saying, it's telling me there is nothing available. There is no website or anything. Even if I can try and put HTTPS just to assure, there's no SSL installed, so it's not going to have the HTTPS there. But just to make sure, while the script execution is going on, we can try this. Okay, you can see it's not loading anything at all. Now, if I go back to my previous tab and let's wait for this deployment to finish. If you have navigated away from this screen, not to worry, you can always check your progress in here. It runs in the background, so you haven't lost anything. If there are any screen where you're going to lose your settings, it will prompt for it. So whether you want to save it or are you sure you want to navigate away. Okay, it's taking a little bit of time. It should be ready soon. While this is doing it, I'm going to just show you the resource group structure, what has been up. So here you can see there are multiple VMs, which we have done. The numbers and everything is available. So that's perfectly fine. Yeah. Okay, let's see what is the status. Brilliant. So we got the IIS installed. And we can go back to the resources where the script execution details can be viewed. And like, the IIS has been successful. So IIS is Internet Information Server. Now, if I try and go back and if the port is open, it should serve me in IIS landing page, which I doubt if we have the port open, but let's give it a try. Because what you can do, if you really want to check whether the port is open or not, you can go into VM and go to networking. And here you can see, so the port is not open, but you can actually set this up from the NSG or the VNet. So, okay, that is not open, but there is another way to test it is we can open up RDP port. And to do that, you can go back to VM. Go back to networking. And there are inbound rules. So I can directly add inbound rule to the VM as well. So let me just open up port, not custom, but HTTP port and add. Normally, it's recommended that we should do this port opening and control everything from NSG rather than directly doing it here. So we have this, and what I'm going to do, go and copy IP. And here we go. So we got the response returned back with the page. Previously, it was just telling me that it cannot load. Okay, so this is how, that's another way to install VM and control VM with any custom scripts or anything what we'd like to install. Okay. Now, there are other ways to do it, just using a command line script and perform those execution as well. So if I really want to do execution of command line, I can then go back to, let's pick up another VM what we have created. Okay, I think the better step to do is we can go to export template. So this is another way to do it. So we use the template while creating the VM. Now we can use the template after even we created the VM successfully. So we can see this what is a VM, what I've created, and I can visualize the template. I can see what are the different resources are connected with that. So this is where the a good visualization is available if you are not happy to read JSON file. Okay, it's going to take a quick minute or so, and it will generate a nice graphic there. Okay, so here we only got the one VM and the VM connection is not there, but if you have other appliances connected, you should be able to see it. Yep. Okay, so we're going to go back into export template, and within this one, and we going to go and let me look at the parameter, looking good, everything's fine. Hit deploy, and this time we're going to just rename to 01. So create another VM. Okay, and I can see the VM1 is there, RG0 is there. If I want to execute any custom script, I can give a custom script here as well. Okay, so it requires a custom script because we previously installed the custom script. In that situation, what we can do, we can just go into the other VM. Obviously, I can pass the IIS custom script and perform that execution, but there's another way to do it because this is a clean machine. So it will be much faster to do that. So I'm going to go through the export template, deploy, give a name here. Okay, so everything is looking good. So I just wanted to show you another template is executing without any sorts of script modification. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into the edit template and we're going to make some changes here. So we need to look for a place called resources, which is here. And within resources, we're going to pass additional script. So we got virtual machine is there, absolutely fine. What we need is additional script to be added as extension. So you saw the extension which we created using the extension graphical option, but now here I'm going to add another custom script here. So while this is going on, I can actually explain the script. So what it is doing is in the script, it's installing extension. It's giving the virtual machine what extension or the type it needs to be executed as, the custom script extension, which we selected manually in the previous step. Then it gives the depends on the VM name. It sets all the properties, what is needed for that custom script. And then it will give upgrade versions, settings, and within the settings, it gives the script locations. So it's executing PowerShell script, and it's called install Windows feature name web server, which is nothing but the IIS. It's the same thing, and it's going to set up the page which needs to be created. So the standard page will be removed, but there is another page is getting added, and it's just putting like another value is hello world from. Okay, and hello world from is a computer name. Okay, now so this is how we have got our script. So script is written down. I think this is not right here, but when we installed here, let me put comma here. Okay, let's save and see if we have any unexpected element. So expected position. This is not really good one because you cannot see 5380 here. You only see like numbers. So in this situation, it just makes a lot difficult. So other way you can do, you can download a script and debug it using Visual Studio. Interesting, it's got accepted comma here. There's another comma is needed. Okay, doesn't look like this script is going to be a good fun here. So I'm going to discard. Let's do this again, and I'm going to manually copy. Not a good. Sorry, copy command is just not behaving nicely. So your line 20 in. Let me just discard this. Edit template. Okay. Okay, looks like this is not really happening right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to skip this particular part. So ultimately what you can do, you can pass that script, and let me just copy script here so you can actually see the script properly. And that's how you can actually pass that addition into the resources section. So the one I was trying to edit here, but it looks like there's something going funny with the environment. You can see this like it's automatically typing. Okay, hopefully that has stopped. So if I give it a try again here. Okay, hooray, that worked. So this is how it exactly does. As I explained, it's passing the IIS stuff. And let me try and save. Hooray, that worked. Okay. So it's important that you have a correct JSON file supplied. In this one, because I've given a modification, I'm creating a new VM, and then I'm passing the extension. What is it telling me now is not a valid, could not find the template resource or copy with this name. So I think that is because of the renaming is happening, and probably the JSON has been screwed up. But what you can do, you can always export a new copy and then start fresh. Okay. Right, so we've seen the extension installation manually. You can do the script-wise the way I've just quickly talk you through. And this is how you can perform your end-to-end VM creation. Let me see if we can perform a quick another 5-10 minutes demo. Okay, so let me just quickly show you how we can set up a VMSS. So if you want to set up VMSS, you search for virtual machine skill set. So this is what you select. And within the virtual machine skill set, you hit create button. And once you create, you can also pass a script here, or you can configure the VMSS you want to create. So this is how here you can go step by step. You set up like in a virtual machine skill set name. You can set up like any other extension you need to set up, select the correct image. You select the size, you set the password, and you give the username. When you click on the spot, what you need to configure, we're going to probably hit because it's going to take a lot of time. So I'm just quickly just taking you through the different tabs here. Here you can select the disk you would like to have in a virtual machine scale set. And you can go into networking where you can enable whatever the network elements you need to do. So here you can give a VNet name. You can also select the existing VNet if you like. So that you can do. Here, the scaling is the very important bit. So as per the presentation, you can see that the scaling happens based on the initial instance count and how much is the maximum you want to go and how the scaling needs to happen. So you can either set this is as a 1 as a minimum, or minimum has to be 1. You cannot do 0. That's where I will complain further down there. So say let's start with the 1. You can do a manual scaling policy, or you can do custom. And in custom, you can actually put it down like, let's see this here. Let me try and scroll it up properly. Yeah, okay. So it says minimum number of instances 1. The maximum number of instances, it can go up to 10. And after that, after 10, it will stop. The condition for the scale up is when you go to CPU threshold, my VM runs up to 75% of the CPU or more for 10 minutes, then increase the VM by 1, automatically scale up. if the scaling threshold, like CPU threshold, comes down to 25, the number of instances to decrease by 1. So it will then slowly decrease it, like that how. So whenever you have a higher demand, it will grow. It will make sure your services are provided better to your customer, and whenever it's not really needed, it scales down, so it saves cost as well. Great. So I hope that makes sense about the VMSs as well. So we learned quite a number of stuff, and I hope you have enjoyed it. So let's move to the next session, next topic.
For Linux, it's recommended that you use SSH, and you can use one of those, like in a program called puttygen, or on a window, or SSH keygen on Linux. So some of those third-party program you can use to connect to it. Okay, let's review our availability quickly before we run out of time. So in availability, it's typically you get asked quite chunk of questions, which is 20-25%, if I remember correctly, where you will be asked the questions around the VM availability options, deploy and configure skill sets, and so on. Now, in this availability, you have options to keep your server up and running, either for the maintenance or for the downtime. Whether the downtime is expected or unexpected, you have to have that, you need to plan for the downtime as well. So disaster recovery is another word we use in a normal term. How can we assure that our services will be up and running for unexpected or even a planned downtime? We can create either one option is availability set. We can then step up and add update and fault domain, so UD and FD. Even if you want to go further, then you can add availability zones. And availability zones will increase your SLA. We will see on the next slides how much difference this makes. And also, we compare between the vertical and horizontal scaling. Personally, I prefer horizontal scaling, because the vertical scaling, you're increasing resources on the single VM. It requires downtime as well. And we need to create a skill sets. I would say, this is something you can take as a homework and try and learn it. Also learn about the auto scaling, and try and do the scaling yourself, and see how that works. So when we plan for maintenance and downtime, we consider a couple of scenarios. These are the common scenarios, which is unplanned hardware maintenance, which is not really planned, but suddenly we notice that something is not right on one of the hardware, needs to be changed without any wait. So that's unplanned hardware maintenance. And it needs to have the live migration needs to be done to make sure it's all up and running. Unexpected downtime, which is not totally expected, and suddenly it's failed, and now you have no other option, but you have to fix it. Then you can have an action called automatic migrate hill. Plan maintenance, which you schedule it and you tell your users that by this time to this time in this certain date, we're going to have a planned maintenance. So no further action is needed, but we can just inform decision. That means we can perform that maintenance, get the services back up and running in the given timeline. When you set up availability set, you actually set up a couple of parameter here, which is called FD, and you set up UD. Typically, all the fault domain is probably the lesser number compared to the update domain, and I'll tell you why in the next slide. But when we actually setting up availability sets, the availability set has SLA, which is 99.95, which is probably acceptable by many organizations, but many organizations might not. On that case, you can add even further recoverability. So here, let's review the update and fault domain scenarios first. So in update domain, it allows Azure to perform incremental or rolling upgrade across the deployment. During planned maintenance, only one update domain is rebooted. So if you have this scenario where you got the web server and you got a SQL server, which is a data server, you typically replicate that into a different fault domain. So these are the availability sets. And within availability set, you mirroring like, whatever it's on the web, it's on the web here as well. So it creates a web availability set. And for the SQL, it also creates a SQL availability set. So let's assume if this scenario here, it fails. Yes. So this because of like the network disconnectivity or hardware failure or power failure or even natural disaster or anything is happening on this one. Natural disaster, exclude that scenario because that will come further. But here in those kind of scenario where like, hardware or any connectivity or any other failures, it can actually like, switch over to another fault domain. So it identifies the fault and switch over to another FD. If update is happening and I'm updating this virtual machine, so let's assume that I'm upgrading OS or patching up operating system, or even I'm fixing web server. While I'm doing this plan update, we can switch over to this virtual machine to perform the business as well. The similar thing happens on this virtual machine. When this update is happening, it can switch over to this virtual machine. Okay. So for fault domain, it's a virtual machines that share a common set of hardware switches and that share a single point of failure. Yeah. So VM in this VM in an availability set are placed in at least two fault domain, at least minimum two you need it, and then it switches over as per the fault is detected. To increase even higher SLA from the 99.95 to 99.99, so achieve 4 nines, you set this exact the fault domain and the update domain scenario into multiple zones. So if the zone is failing, then the other zone will kick off and serve the purposes. Why this needs to be beneficial is includes a data center with independent power, cooling, and networking, because they all is independent data center. So if this data center is totally failing, but then it will switch over to another zone, another data center availability. Like, that's where like, it will just kick off. But this is all setting up into unique physical location or in a region. So this is a one entire region, remember. So if a region is failed for some reason, you don't have a backup option here. It's totally failed. So to protect that, let me come back to the virtual scaling here. Then you go to GRS and GZRS. That topic will come a little bit later on. But here, so you then go into the geo redundancy and those kind of option. So if the one region is failed, the other region will kick off. Yeah. Vertical scaling, where vertical scaling, you adding or stacking up more and more resources, and it requires possible downtime. Say example, hot swappable hard drive, you don't need a downtime probably, but if it is a CPU or a RAM needs to be upgraded, it may require downtime. If it is a virtual stack, probably increasing and decreasing. Nowadays, it doesn't require downtime, but it scales up. Ultimately, it scales up on one single physical VM, increasing those resources. So you can do increase and decrease resources, and that's how the vertical scaling is happening. Where unlikely in horizontal scaling, it keeps the one VM, but it replicates that into multiple VM. And then further, if the still we got a lot of resources are in use, or it's a resource hungry processes are happening, then it even further spins up into multiple. So say, for example, this is number 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So that's how it increments one by one. And this is what we will see in the next screenshot here. But when you're creating a scale set, number of VMs in the scale set you can do is 0 to 1000. and there are other parameters need to be kept in mind. So this is what I wanted to show you in terms of the auto scale. So auto scaling, which is horizontal scaling, happens in this manner. So you can set what is a minimum, which is always a 1 minimum instance. You can increase that as a minimum to 2 or 5 as well, but that's absolute minimum is 1. And the maximum number of instances based on your budget, capacity, organization's appetite, or whatever you agreed in the planning phase, you can set that maximum. So that means even if we are horizontally scaling up, the maximum VMs it will go is up to 10, no more than 10, and it will stop after that. So the scale out rule we set up saying if my CPU threshold reaches 75% or higher, remains there for 10 minutes in duration, because then if you don't really want to scale up another machine, if the spike happens for a second or 2 seconds or even less than a minute, because that's no use. You're unnecessarily utilizing that cost. But if that's happening more than 10 minutes, could be a significant time for your business, and it's a business criticality, then increase the instance by number 1. So we add another VM by adding this up. But then we also need to think about downscaling as well. So like scale in. So if this resources now gradually goes down because the demand has decreased and it goes down to 25% as a threshold, so CPU threshold, so it's burning only 25% of energy in that, or the utilization, in that scenario, reduce that by 1. But what will happen if you already have 1, then it won't just go down and make it 0, but it will just remain as a minimum value and then it will stop. But if you have spinned up, say in a current scenario, you have a 3 VMs, which is all running at like, probably 75%, and the last one running below 75%, and the fourth one hasn't been spinned up. Now your demand is suddenly dropped and goes to 25. That means it will start switch over and start putting some of the resources down. So it will monitor for that CPU threshold and take the action. Okay. So this is like, in terms of the lab, we can do that, but we just unfortunately running out of time. So this is what I would like you to perform. Create multiple VM, put it into one subnet, put it into like one VNet. Make sure you have created a storage account. We have those script, which is available in the lab environment. Install this IIS. If not, you can manually install IIS as well. And then create other tasks. In that one, you create NSG, you create IP, you create load balancer, and the virtual machine skill set. Because if you spin up multiple machines in a VM access scenario, you need to have the load balancer to distribute the load. Because if your VM1 is already hitting 75% or more CPU, you need to stop new request. So the existing request definitely can be served by the VM1. But then as soon as the new VM gets pinned up horizontally scaled, the new request needs to go to VM2. So you definitely need a load balancer there. Brilliant. So thank you very much for joining today, and let's meet tomorrow with the new topics. Thank you. Have a nice day.